I thought I had another couple of months to make this video. Brandon Sanderson, the guy known for breaking the internet at least 3 times so far, has now succeeded in breaking time and space, reaching 2 months into the future and starting shipping on Secret Project 5, Isles of the Emberdark, at the beginning of July instead of September. So here's what we know. But first, patrons! Doug, Data Gremlin, Craig, James, Dalinar's Butt, Moochie, Chris, Meethy Carone, Gallant Aegis, the Son of James, Lexar Talap, 42, Windcaller, Destroy Evil, Shardcore, and Revelry Play. Thanks for your patience and support. If you like my videos, consider joining my Patreon. Originally part of the Words of Radiance leather-bound crowdfunding campaign, and still available for pre-order on the Dragonsteel Books website, Isles of the Emberdark is basically an expansion of Six of the Dusk into its own sequel, which Brandon initially teased at the Rhythm of War virtual release party in 2020.
So if you are worried about Space Age of the Cosmere being spoiled for you, I might recommend, waiting for 15 years before you read this.
And now it's coming even earlier. The entirety of the original Six of the Dusk novella, published in Arcanum Unbounded, is included as an extended flashback sequence, with minor changes pointed out in a section in the back if you want to skip it. Not sure if it's going to be all one chunk or broken up throughout the rest of the narrative, but given that in another reading, Brandon listed Dusk meeting with the ones above as Chapter 3, it'll probably be divided up. Chapters in Stormlight are usually between 2,000 and 4,000 words, with really long ones topping out around 6,000 or 7,000. And in that same reading, Brandon said that at this point we will have gotten a glimpse of Dusk. But we also don't meet Starling until chapter 11, which is plenty of time for the flashback novella to finish up. So if we assume a roughly equal distribution between new and old in the first 10 chapters, 5 chapters of original Six of the Dusk would round out at about 3,500 words each, which is reasonable length. Post-flashback, Dusk heads out to explore Shadesmar, which should honestly be really cool. All those creatures he knows about that hunt by sensing cognitive aspects, yeah, it's about to get a lot more complicated. And hopefully this book is going to give us concrete answers as to what the other common AVR talents are, because we still aren't sure what Lift or Mraze's chickens do. The structure of this book is a dual narrative, which Sanderson said is when this book really started coming together. Half will be the travels of Dusk, and the prologue, and again at chapter 11, introduces us to Starling, a dragon from Yolen, which may at this point be less hidden than it was before. Starling is niece to Hoyd's buddy Frost, and actually apprentice world singer before Hoyd disappeared. We learn a whole bunch about dragons in that prologue. Adulthood at 30, where they finally are able to turn into their dragon form in order to learn what it's like to be small. Starling is apparently an albino, which some think is a punishment of some kind related to what happened to her parents. She gets her wings, then we jump forward 50 years to her working on the Dynamic, a spaceship traveling through Shadesmar. Honestly, I'm getting fantasy Firefly vibes from the whole thing. She's accompanied by Naj as a Shade, who sports a set of sideburns that were fashionable when he died. There's some clues here. Perpendicularities have become increasingly rare, so genuine interplanetary travel has come to rely more and more on FTL ships in physical realm space. Why? I don't know, I'm sure we'll raffo eventually. Casual mention of faster-than-light travel, plus what we already know about Six of the Dusk and the timeline, puts us very far in the future of the Cosmere. Maybe not quite as far as Yumi, but pretty darn far. Maybe that's why Hoyd disappeared. It'll be interesting to see how Brandon navigates storytelling and the balance of secrets and potential contradictions. We also meet a couple other species of humanoids, which is very fun. Sleepless we already know are kicking around everywhere, but this is our first introduction to Lonarchs, who I can only assume look like this. Now we just need an explanation on the lizard person at the end of Tress. We've seen the name Emberdark before, in Shadesmar on Roshar. There's a city in the Sea of Lost Lights south of Celebrant called Emberdark, right next to the Emberdark Channel, which crosses the cognitive peninsula of the Deathbend River in southern Alethkar, possibly near where Kaladin's lands are. Now, whether the Isles have some direct relation to the city, we don't know. It could just be a cool word that Brandon likes, so he used it again. Judging by book thickness, Isles of the Emberdark looks to be comparable in length to Tress or Yumi, so probably around 100 to 110,000 words, 17,000 of which are Six of the Dusk original. At this point, if you haven't, you could sit down and read Six of the Dusk in its entirety in an hour or two. But with backers getting ebooks on July 1st, with hard copies shipping out soon after, you might as well just read and find out. Wind and Truth Cosmere Connections coming real soon. Subscribe!